This video is funded in part by Jerry Lexington non-actual name. And yes, we already know that you're wasting your money. Greetings everyone, Jack5 here again, and welcome to another tier list video. There's so many series on my YouTube channel where I forget about them for half a year and then all of a sudden I decide to make a new episode. The tier lists are no different. In this tier list video, I'm going to be ranking the official and custom game modes in Team Fortress 2. I got a whole list of them based on what I saw on Teamwork.TF. If your favorite game mode isn't here, that's just because it wasn't being played at the time, or there's just so many variables that I cannot keep up with it. Now, I'm not making the same mistake as my previous tier list videos, so whatever I say is completely my opinion, definitely in this case because I have not really played many of these for very long. This is all based on personal experience, and I can guarantee you that in one of these places I am going to mess up really bad. I'm going to be covering the official, then the custom game modes in alphabetical order, which means that the first game mode I have to look at here is Attack Defend. Attack Defend is really good. Definitely the asymmetry of the game mode sells it, where one team is attacking and one team is defending. Those seem to be the best game modes in TF2 overall. Now, because I'm not too familiar with all the game modes and my opinions are likely to change, I'm going to just compromise and put Attack Defend at A. I may move it out of A into S later on, but we'll have to see depending on where I place everything else. Arena, on the other hand, is much different. Unlike something like Counter-Strike Global Offensive, where Arena mode is very slow and calculated, TF2's Arena mode is just completely all over the place. Rounds last so short, and there isn't a static formula for how the rounds are structured, that it just leaves everybody to move on and do other things before they've even had a chance to try out multiple arena maps. It really isn't a long-lasting game mode in TF2's lifespan, and I totally understand why it's not in the rotation, the official rotation. It just exists as side maps. Which tier I want to put this in? I think it will be either C or below. The base gameplay of this is still pretty good, but you know what? I'm gonna put it in D for now. Capture the Flag, on the other hand, is a mess. Unlike Arena mode, which is entirely about the base game, Capture the Flag adds the flag mechanic on, and the maps for CTF mode are absolutely terrible. There's no time limit, and you have to do 3 captures. There are so many videos on the internet that document why CTF is bad, and I have to agree with them because every time I play CTF, I'm stuck in a game for too long and it can never finish, or there's tons of bots. I mean, bots shouldn't have anything to do with this ranking, but still, you can see what I mean. It's oversaturated, it's a terrible game, engineers just sit in the base, snipers sit in the towers, it's always the same, and it never ends. So let's put it even lower than Arena. Competitive, this is an iffy one, because obviously TF2's competitive scene in Valve's eyes failed. It was a terrible rush job, and 6's really doesn't work for TF2. But if we're taking competitive at a more broad spectrum, even then, I still feel like competitive is not my style, mainly because you're being put into teams that you have to coordinate with and you have to be so precise about everything. There's no room for error in competitive. Everyone takes everything too seriously. I can't handle that environment. I just want to play TF2 in order to have fun, and competitive sucks the fun out of it. It's definitely better than CTF. It has standards, so I think I can safely put competitive next to Arena in D, just because they're both roughly about the base game. And now we come to control points. Unlike Attack Defend, control points is symmetrical, and it usually has to revolve around 5 points. Although CP is much better than the game modes in D and E right now, it's very stale depending on the map, and the number of points there are can mean that games can go on for way too long. Although this is the preferred game mode of the competitive scene, from what I've heard, not really a fan of 5 CP. It doesn't work for me that well. The changing spawns, the fact that engineers have to move their teleporters constantly, it can get pretty annoying. I mean, it's just sort of in the middle of the road because I can't pin it to any other place. We'll have to see what happens when I change the tier list around. Now, you might be asking, why do I have stand-in as a separate image? The reason is because stand-in is actually a really bad version of domination, which is next in the alphabet. Domination is supposed to be capturing points gives you a timer, and the timer ticks down faster depending on how many points you own. The stand-in that's in TF2 means that you have to own every single point to win. This version of domination sucks. It is so annoying because you have to focus entirely on attacking points and everybody has to split up. There's no coordination. And sure, this works in a casual sense, but the fact that everybody's split up and they're all trying to attack all the points makes it a nightmare for anything else. So I'm gonna put stand-in E with CTF because it really just does a disservice to classic domination, and I'll get to classic domination later in this list. King on the Hill, on the other hand, I'm comfortable with putting it right in A. It's just as fun as attack defend, and also it's perfectly balanced. There's only one point that you have to worry about. Every team has an opportunity. It's basically just the quintessential elements of 5CP just boiled down to 1 point, and that's what makes it fun. You probably forgot this was the thing, didn't you? Manpower. Oh boy. There's just so many factors on why manpower is just not fun. The grappling hooks, the power-ups, it just abstracts the classes to a level that I'm personally not comfortable with. And the maps for it are just versions of other maps that have been made worse in order to work with manpower. The only good manpower map is Hellfire, and even then, it's just weird. I can't wrap my head around it. And the new update for manpower, I haven't even tried. Why would you play manpower? Just play something else. So yeah, put this in F. Man versus Machine, I treat it similarly to competitive because you're still in a team of 6s and you're having to defend against robots, but at least with MVM, there isn't really a drive to be perfect every moment. In MVM, there is a chance that if you fail a wave, you can restart and you can work out new strategies, so it's much better. Losing money is pretty annoying, and the fact that there are only so many MVM maps leaves something to be desired, but it's definitely higher on this list, and I don't play it as regularly as Attack Defend or Koth, so I think I'm gonna put this in B, but again, I'll be coming back to a lot of these later on. Medieval has the potential to be really good. The problem with Medieval is that it only has one map, and if you ignore that one map and you just think about Medieval as a broad concept, De Groot Keep gets played tons. There's clearly people that really enjoy this, and you know what? I enjoy it too, but I wish that there was more content that was being offered. I'm gonna go ahead and put it up with A, because it's honestly really fun and people should play it more often if Valve ever bothers to add new Medieval maps. Once again, another forgotten game mode. Pastime can just go straight to F because it is just like Manpower in terms of being completely unnecessary, not really balanced at all, just abstracts the classes' powers too much. It's just not in the spirit of TF2 in my eyes. Okay, Payload. This game mode has the same asymmetry that makes Attack Defend great. Both of them have that clear difference between the attacking and defending team, and Payload is very well balanced. Although Attack Defend is much easier to get right, Payload, it works, and there's a lot of good maps for it, so I'll put it in A and come back to it later. Payload Race, on the other hand, I can't rank as highly. The issue with Payload Race is that once the initial push has gotten out of the way, the game devolves into whether you're going to push the cart or whether you're going to defend, and most of the time, people don't defend. And on the maps that force you to defend, such as Banana Bay, there's too much in the way of getting the cart to the final point that the game just loses all meaning. I really am just unclear about Payload Race. It's not fun, and I can't really describe why it's not, so I'll put it in the C tier for that reason. Player Destruction, the game mode that nobody took seriously when it came out and suddenly has become one of the most played game modes in TF2, and it still gets maps. Player Destruction came from Watergate, which was the We Are in the Beam map, and since then, it's basically stayed the same with a couple of small changes. However, I have an issue with Player Destruction. If a team is slightly imbalanced, the map just becomes super one-sided, and it's a problem with every Player Destruction map. It's probably just a problem with the game mode in general. The fact that you're always getting rolled unless the teams are perfectly in sync. Because of that, I really can't put it in the same rank as Control Points and Payload Race, so I think I'm gonna have to put it with D. It's definitely not as bad as Capture the Flag or Stand-In, but it just doesn't deserve to be with regular control points. Robot destruction, you can go straight into F. Nobody plays you and nobody understands what you are. You're just an outcast just like the other ones that are in F. Special delivery is a mess. On one hand, it has the potential to be really good because it's basically just CTF converging onto one point. But they failed with special delivery because Doomsday, the lift system, just means that you take ages to cap a flag. It's really annoying to have to move all your team over. And when one team owns the point, there's not much you can do other than defend. And when you've lost that flag, all of a sudden the other team has gotten it again. It's just a disaster. For that reason, I think it goes into the E tier, below player destruction. Territorial Control, the game mode that people love to hate. The issue with Territorial Control is it only has one map, Hydro, and people just hate Hydro. However, I have seen other Territorial Control maps, and the game mode itself is actually okay. It's basically just a bunch of 2CP matches with the map environment changing in unexpected ways. That has the potential to be really good, but it's not as static as CP, and for that reason, teams lose just by virtue of being lost. But I do not think it is as flawed as something like Capture the Flag, so it's probably going to go in D, just as a neglected game mode that people really should give more of a chance. Yes, I count training as a game mode, and it is inadequate as people say it is. There was only one time that I ever attempted training, and that was very early in my TF2 life, and I didn't learn much from it. So unfortunately, training is gonna go into F. There's so many things that TF2 needs to teach new players, and it just doesn't right now. All right, now we've moved on to the custom game modes, and the first one we're going to cover is achievement servers. This isn't really a game mode, it's more of a type of map, but achievement servers, they cheat you out of the victory that you could get by actually completing achievements for real. The people that go on these servers aren't willing to get better at the game or improve. They just want to get all the achievements as fast as they can, sometimes idle, but most of the time they just want to get free items. That sucks the spirit out of TF2. I have no remorse for achievement servers, and I believe that they should be down here in the F tier with the rest of the forgotten game modes. Class Wars is a mixed bag. On one hand, you can have a really good match between two classes that complement each other really well, and they're on an asymmetrical map, which makes things even better. On the other hand, you can have a absolute landslide where one team is forced to surrender. It's a good thing that this game mode has a surrender function, but still the fact that stuff like that can happen is an issue. As for where this game mode goes on the list, I'm split between C and D tier. It has a lot of the similar problems of Payload Race, but I'm concerned whether it is as bad as something like Territorial Control. Well, considering that competitive is in D tier and Class Wars is all about communicating with each other to figure out a strategy using the class that you're given, I feel like I can put Class Wars in D tier. The main problem I'm citing here is the fact that imbalance is very common. Alright, Creators.TF. This is probably one of the most quintessential TF2 experiences that you can have. That initial rush of being able to complete all those new contracts and try out all those new maps and weapons is what really sells this. The issue with Creators is that it really doesn't feel like there's much on offer in terms of playing it over and over. I don't feel the drive to continue playing Creators unless there's a major update to it. And in a similar way, that's just what TF2 is like. You really don't feel like playing TF2 for real unless there's a massive update that you want to try out. I'm gonna have to put this in A and come back to it later. A is gonna fill up really quickly. I'm gonna have to split some of it off into S tier pretty soon. Deathmatch is a weird one. It's actually impossible to do strict deathmatch in TF2. You have to have a map specially designed for it, and you have to have team killing on. It's really a mess. But when you do have deathmatch in TF2, it doesn't really feel good because the game wasn't designed to have people shooting each other in a one-on-one setting. It was always meant to be everybody works as a team and fights a different team. So deathmatch isn't going to rank very high. Is it going to rank as high as arena? No, I don't think so. But there is a place for it. When it works, it does. So I'm going to put it in E because I don't have as little respect for it as stuff like achievement achievement servers and Manpower. Death Run is all about the maps, even more so than the other game modes, because in Death Run, all you do is just run and avoid hazards. There really isn't much gameplay aside from that, but the maps for Death Run can be really good. It's just the fact that there's basically no gameplay here. I think I'm gonna put it in the D tier just based on the quality of the maps alone. Just bear in mind that it's down here because there's barely any gameplay. Dodgeball is an excellent resource for pyros looking to improve their air blast. I personally don't use Dodgeball servers. I'm not really interested in practicing, but Dodgeball is fun when you have nearly a full server of pyros all launching an army of rockets at each other. At the same time, it can get stale just like Arena. So into the D tier you go with your cousin. All right, here we are at Classic Domination. Domination could have been in TF2. It would have been so much better than the domination map that we got in TF2 stand-in, which is absolutely terrible just because you have to own all 3 points. For proof that Classic Domination works, the source mod Team Fortress 2 Classic has domination in it and it works. It gets maps. I'm going to put it in D because it deserves more respect than stand-in, all right? Similarly to Dodgeball, jump maps are a really good resource for improving your rocket jumping skills, but beyond that, there isn't really much to them. They're just there for training purposes. So it's good to do them as one person and then you just sort of move on. I'll put it with Dodgeball for that reason. Man, D tier is filling up a lot. Yes, I have some community maps in this list, such as Mario Kart, because for some reason people like to run this on servers. Mario Kart is basically an idle map. It has no objective. It exists for no other reason than just because it's Mario Kart. However, unlike achievement servers, Mario Kart actually has a place in TF2. It's definitely because of stuff like friendly servers and the famous animation Team Fabulous 2 that this map is so well known, but it really doesn't belong higher on the list where there's actual gameplay involved. Mario Kart is just an idle map. So I'm gonna put it in E because it deserves some respect, but not much. If you want to duel with another person, then MGE is for you. It's pretty much very similar to Dodgeball in the fact that you could really easily get a friend to hop in and battle with them, but beyond that, MGE just sort of ends. Let's put MGE into D with Dodgeball and Jump. Unlike Mario Kart, Orange is a terrible map and should not be popular in TF2 at all. It is not symmetrical. It's so easy for snipers to kill others. It's always thrown onto servers that have all of the power fantasy plugins like 100% crits or Uber upgrades. It's an absolute mess, and also it shares the same problems with control points because the game never finishes. You're always stuck on the map, and since people treat it as an idle map, I guess that's fine, but for me, I absolutely hate Orange. So you can go at the very bottom. Okay, so I'm putting Pipeball on this list because I believe it deserves more respect than Pastime gets. As for where it goes on this list, it's probably going to be in either D or E tier. I'm personally leaning towards D tier because Pipeball has the same balance issues that Class Wars has, and yet it's still a lot of fun and people play it anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put it right there. How about Randomizer though? This is really the epitome of what am I gonna get? You have no idea what weapons you're going to have and you just have to make do. You know, out of all of the game modes that exist, Randomizer is actually kind of okay because of the variety of weapons you can get on all of the classes. Even with the weird OP weapons that Randomizer adds in for no particular reason, the game is still balanced for some reason. Because of that, I'm actually going to put Randomizer into C tier. It's sort of in the ballpark of Payload Race. Slender Fortress is really weird. On one hand, it's really fun to play Slender with other people and have to complete the same objective as a group. But on the other hand, you have to download so much in order to play Slender. And even then, it might not be worth it because there's just so many maps and bosses that you have no idea what you're getting into. You might have a great time, you might have a terrible time, who knows? Just because the entry to get into Slender is so high, I'm putting it into the E tier. It should not be that hard to play a game mode. As for Surf, I'm just going to put it with Mario Kart because it exists in a similar plane of why does this exist, but at the same time, wow, these maps are really good. It's just awkward and I have no idea why this is a thing in TF2. As for trade servers, I'm gonna put them with Mario Kart because they're quite similar. With trade servers, there's no real objective on the maps. Instead, it's all about the interactions that you're having with the people on there. At least trade servers give you the ability to converse with other people and get some good items out of there, especially since the trading in TF2 is getting worse and worse over the years. You need a place like that to exist. Versus Saxon Hale is on a similar plane with MVM or Randomizer because it's such a fun game mode. It gets endlessly played. There's so many maps. Some of them are bad, but who cares, because you're always having fun with Versus Saxon Hale. Even if the queue system is long, everybody's just become accustomed to it. I can't remember having a bad time in Versus Saxon Hale. I really can't. I'm split between B and C tier. I'm gonna have to think about this for a little longer. Okay, I've decided I'm going to put it in B tier, especially since that tier is looking quite desolate. The final game mode I have planned to rank is times 10. Times 10 is kind of like Randomizer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Although I don't believe it should get the same respect as Randomizer, because all you're doing is just making weapons spammable, and I really don't think that that's a good idea. So I'm going to put this into the D tier. Now, obviously the problem here is that I've placed these game modes into 6 tiers, and yet I have 7 tiers. Because of that, I'm going to move everything up and then figure out which game modes need to go down. Okay, there we go. I've moved everything up except the F tier. Now I'm going to go through these and I'm going to move them down. I'll start with the D tier. So I'm going to go ahead and move stand-in down. Deathmatch is also something that's going to go down here. Then I'm going to move Mario Kart, Surf, and Trade. The reason that I move Mario Kart, Surf, and Trade down is that I don't really consider them as game modes in a sense. They just exist. The maps don't really serve any big purpose on their own. Hopefully that makes sense. Now I have to look at the C tier and try to figure out where everything goes. I don't think stuff like Arena Competitive, Player Destruction, or Territorial Control should go down because they're clearly better than Capture the Flag. Although I would like to move Class Wars further down, the fact that Randomizer is in the B tier tells me that instead of moving things down because they're imbalanced, I should still be moving them down because they are just not exercise to their full potential. In that case, I'll be moving down Domination. Pipeball can also go down here. And times 10 does not deserve the respect of being in the C tier. In order to even out the A tier, I'm gonna go ahead and move Medieval down just because it could get stale. B also needs more, so I think I'll move Player Destruction up. I think I'll also move Class Wars up too because of its similarities with Randomizer. Okay, one more change. I'm going to move Control Points up because I feel like there should be at least one relatively unchanged game between S and B tier. And after looking at the rest of this list, I don't see anything that needs changing, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. Now remember that this is my terrible opinion, and you're likely to have a much different experience than I did, but here are my thoughts about all of the game modes in TF2 and some custom ones. If you want the quintessential TF2 experience, you have to play an attack, defend, or payload map, which are asymmetrical, or a King of the Hill map, or you could do this all on Creators.TF, which is honestly the best version of TF2 that we currently have, completely fueled by the community. Control Points at Medieval are good casual alternatives, or you could go and play Man vs. Machine with friends, or you could just hop onto a Versus Saxon Hale server. All of those are equally fun as well. It's at Payload Race and Player Destruction that you start to run into troubles, and even Class Wars and Randomizer fall into the same category, mainly because of the imbalance of the game. Then we get to the C tier, in which we get to the abandoned game modes or community game modes that focus more on maps or training than actual gameplay. The D tier is where we start to see the bad official game modes. Then we have Slender Fortress, which is difficult to install, Domination and Pipeball, which don't get the recognition they deserve, and times 10, which is just spam. In the E tier, we have Stand-In, which is a terrible game mode, Deathmatch, which really can't be done in TF2, and then a bunch of maps that really don't serve any purpose other than gathering people together. And then in the F tier, we have the worst game modes on offer, such as bad official game modes or servers that only exist to profit off of your insecurities. I feel like I did a pretty good job of ranking the official game modes, not necessarily the community game modes, because I'm not really too experienced in them, but tell me your thoughts in the comments. Once again, I'm sorry if I didn't get to your favorite community game mode. The issue is there's just so many of them, and I really only wanted to do the ones that get consistent players according to Teamwork.TF stats. With that, I'm going to leave this video video here until half a year to a year later, in which I actually make another one of these. If you don't want to see my channel die, like or comment on this video or subscribe, anything helps. And as always, I will see you all next time. Do you want exclusive benefits, including seeing your name in the credits of my new videos? Then click the top right icon in this video or the link in the description to go to my Patreon page. Any level of support is very much appreciated.